Hello everyone, Mark with High Tech Legion. In this video we're going to be doing a review unboxing showing you the installation and going through the benchmark numbers for the Scythe Mugen Max CPU cooler. We can see the cooler itself here, no fan or any accessories attached. Pretty large cooler. Stay tuned. Okay, so I have all of our accessories kind of laid out in front of us here so you guys can be taking a look at those. We have the box for the Scythe Mugen Max here, and we're going to go over some of the features listed on the box. You can see that it's Intel LGA 1150 ready. On the side we go over our features here. The first one is the HPMS, which is the Hyper Precision Mounting System, which allows the cooler to be securely mounted with easy and straightforward installation. Then we see our T-maps here, which is three-dimensional, focus in there, three-dimensional multiple airflow pass-through structure. So what that basically is the structure is applied the way that the ventilation, the vents, the fins are created for maximum air to flow through, thus helping increase cooling. We have the GlideStream 140mm PWM fan, and then you can see it has a wide range of cooling purposes. The fins are also optimized to with a 2.6mm spacing to optimize airflow from a lower RPM fan, and that's why Scythe has used this 140mm fan instead of a standard 120mm. It can be a lower RPM fan and still produce the same results as a faster or higher RPM, possibly louder fan. On the back here we see Scythe has included a 2-year warranty from the manufacturer, some other specifications and features, other information in multiple languages here. Very nice presentation with the box, very colorful. So let's take a look at some of the mounting accessories. Here is our 140mm fan. We can see it is sleeved 4-pin PWM. You can see on the blades here it has these curvatures, these indentations. This fan is very quiet and can move up to in the area of 90 CFM of air, so it is a very nice fan. All of our little mounting brackets are all nice, highly polished. Our CPU back plate, which we can see has your rubber pads here that go against the back of the motherboard for tightening down, and has your different mounting holes for different sockets. Take a look at our fan clips here. These actually work very well, but these actually fit into the fan, and the way that they rest on the side of the fan kind of holds them in place while you're attaching the fan to the CPU cooler, so that you can actually put both clips on, put the fan against the cooler, and now it falls off to prove me wrong, and go ahead and secure one in place and secure the other in place without the fan clips falling off. And we can see our different screws for mounting. It includes, they come with little washers on the bottom for when it's screwed against the motherboard to protect the surface to the motherboard. We also have in this little baggie included a little packet of thermal paste, which would be more than enough for at least one application. And then we have our screws for socket 2011. Alright, the instruction guide here, you can see it gives you a layout of all the screws describing what they're all for. They also include this nice little wrench, which is necessary unless you have a screwdriver, like a number 2, number 1 Phillips screwdriver that is more than 6 or 7 inches in length to reach down, or a hex driver to reach down through the top of the heatsink here. You can see the hole, and the reason that's there is this screw for the mounting plate actually lines up with that hole. So either you need a longer screwdriver or hex driver that's only about a 1/4 inch in, the blade is a 1/4 inch in diameter and 6 to 7 inches long to reach down to this when you're trying to affix it to the motherboard. Or they include this little wrench to help you get underneath there. It's a little tedious, but it does work. And taking a look at the cooler a little better. You can see the fins, nice spacing between them. They do have on the front here this fin design to them. It is separate towers. They are attached through a couple of the fins there, but the heat pipes do go up through separate towers to help assist in cooling. Fingerprint on the bottom, we'll clean that before we install it. Very nice, polished, nickel plated copper base plate. Again, same with the top, very nice polished with the Scythe logo up at the top. Overall, the appearance and design of the heatsink is very nice. It would look good in pretty much any system. If you were going for a black theme, you know, it would, of course, it's silver finish, but it still looks very nice because it is that real nice finish to it. It's not just a dull finish. We also have here rubber padding, and you can see right here, and it's a rubber spacer, oops, for socket 775 onto the back plate here, so that it gives it a little bit of extra stability. Alright, and we're going to get into the installation next. I will be installing this in my system, so we're going to do the best to show you that. The one thing to note about the back plate also is the back plate is threaded. So the screws that go into the back plate goes onto the back of the motherboard. You line up with your holes, and the screws actually thread into the back plate. So, and then your mounting screws for your brackets go across on top of that, and then you have one center mounting screw that holds down your main plate to hold your heatsink in place. It does go through what screws are for what brackets are for what. It goes through installation, which slots on the back plate for 775, 1366, or 1150, 1155, 1156. And we note here on the slotted bracket here, which would go into the 1366, it denotes 2011 for the 2011 installation on the front. The socket LGA 775, 1150, 1155, 1156, and 1366 are all the same basic instructions. And then you also have instructions here for your AMD, AM2, AM2 Plus, AM3, AM3 Plus, FM1, and FM2 installations. So the instructions are very straightforward, very easy. We're going to go ahead and get into the installation now. I'll be right back. Stay tuned. Alright, we're going to go through the installation of the Scythe Mugen Max. First we're going to get our back plate and our 4 backplate retaining screws in place. Again, this backplate has multiple holes for multiple Intel sockets, so we're going to make sure that first we have to line up these two with the back of the motherboard, the top 2 holes, which should pretty much, once we do that, put our holes in place for our socket, which it does. So that's a nice feature, even though there's different mounting holes on the back plate. Scythe has made it very easy just by having those two those 2 holes there that line up with the back plate on your motherboard, so that the back plate lines up very easily with whatever socket that you're working with. In this case, the 1150 Haswell socket. So we'll go ahead and snug these down. And I may have to remove my memory just because this is a larger cooler, but I just wanted to see if I could do it with the memory in place without having to remove it. We want to fit them so that they face towards the socket, and they have 3 different notches on them for the different sockets. So the center notches, you want it to be this side up. It's actually a little shinier finish, and the center of it here is raised. This side needs to be up and facing in like this so that our retention clip for the heatsink will line up properly. And our 1155, 56, and 50 is right in the center. So what I try to do is just put this in place, get it lined up as good as possible, and then we'll go ahead and get our screws in. So we have our 4 Phillips head screws that hold down our retention brackets here. So just like so. We'll go ahead and get all 4 of these in place and be right back for the heatsink mounting. Alright, so we have those 4 screws locked down in place. Again, there is no need to over tighten. Tighten and snug is good enough. Over tightening in these circumstances, you know, you could possibly break something. So there's really no need to over tighten on any of these screws for this mounting process. We're going to go ahead and put some thermal paste on the processor. Go ahead and set down our heatsink. And then our retention bracket. So we'll get this up in. It does lock into the heatsink. So once we have it lined up, it'll lock in. We simply line it up with our screws, and we're set to go. And this is where we can see that the one screw is down inside that hole there. On the motherboard here, it would be very difficult to get down here. It's even difficult to get down there to get the screw started. So we're going to go ahead and get it started here. We'll go ahead and get this lined up, get these screws started, and be right back. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get our front screw in. The rear screw I actually put into the bracket before I lowered the heatsink down. It was lined up. This screw is very easy to get to, as you can see here. I do have this screwdriver that's very thin and long enough that it goes down and I can get it on top of that second screw, because really without with the heat sinks that are on the voltage regulators on my motherboard, it would be very difficult to get back, even with this little wrench that's included, just because of how tight it is here. Now if I mounted the heatsink facing the other direction, then I could have the fan would be over the top of the memory, which would be okay, because I don't have the fan on while I'm mounting now, so I'm going to mount that on later. It does sit above the memory, so it wouldn't conflict with that. But even with this little wrench they give you, it would be very hard to secure that to the motherboard. So with this wrench that I have, that's a Phillips head screwdriver with the little bar on it here, it's pretty simple. You know, or if you have a long Phillips head that goes down, that'll fit down through this hole. We'll go ahead and snug these screws up. Again, just snug. When you get them snugged down, the heatsink is nice and tight and secure. We'll go ahead and get our fan with the retaining clips, and these again just lock into the holes there, and we put it over the front of the heatsink and it locks in place very easily. As you can see, this fan clip is still in place here. Oh, and then I knocked it off. But they are very easy to get lined up and to lock into the side of the heatsink, just like that. So it sits on there very nicely. It is adjustable, so you could, you know, if you wanted to move it up here, if you wanted to lower it to blow more at the heat pipes, you can do that. It does perfectly clear my memory here. So there's, you know, even a small gap, maybe about 1/8 of an inch. Clearance to the memory with the fan mounted, with the heatsink in this direction where the overhang is more in the back. If you have a rear case fan, this is a mid-tower case, the Thermaltake Chaser A41, so there's not a lot of space here. So with the rear case fan here, there's really not a need to mount a fan directly on the heatsink here. It will give a little added performance, or you could mount a fan here and not have the rear case fan on. So that's the mounting. Stay tuned for the benchmarks and the rest of our review. Thank you for watching our review of the Scythe Mugen Max CPU cooler. I hope you enjoyed it. For the full review, please see the hightechlegion.com website, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel for upcoming videos and reviews. You can also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/HTL reviews and twitter.com/hightechlegion. Thank you.